Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to let people slowly join in and then we'll get started. If you're just joining us, my name is Shiri Orion, and I'm the executive director of the American Friends of the Parent Circle. And we are very grateful to have you here today. We're just getting started. We will let people in and collect and gather for just a few minutes, and then we'll get started. Nice to see so many familiar faces from all around the world. I see people joining us. So welcome. Rabbi Shira, nice to see you. We really received overwhelming response to be here today, and that is really moving. Lynn Hybels, hi, nice to see you. Hi, Sammy. Bassam is saying hello too. For those of you just getting on, we're giving a few minutes to let people in and collect and gather, and then we'll get started. Andrea LeBlanc, hi. I'm just looking to see all the favorite and recognizable faces, familiar faces. Howard Sumka. Hi, Monica. I'm sure I'm missing people too. Okay, it looks like we have pretty a critical mass here, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. It's late for our friends in Palestine and Israel, so I want to be mindful of their time. For those of you just joining us, my name is Shiri. I am the executive director of the American Friends of the Parent Circle. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know that the Parent Circle is a joint organization made up of bereaved Israeli and Palestinian families, 750 families. Sadly, the number has grown since October 7th of last year. And we're gathered here today as part of a 3-day gathering of reflection. The gathering is called Every Life a Universe. Hi, Rabbi Amy, nice to see you. And this gathering is offering a picture that is complex and has a multi-narrative and nuanced as we memorialize October 7th. Just yesterday, our partners from Nonviolence International organized a gathering that allowed us to remember, grieve, and decry the decades of mistreatment endured by the Palestinian people under the occupation. And tomorrow, on October 8th, our partners at Combatants for Peace will gather us to remember, grieve, and decry the ongoing attacks on Gaza, which have taken the lives of more than 40,000 Palestinians. But today, the Parent Circle is bereaved Israelis and Palestinians for peace, is here to gather us to remember, grieve, and decry the violent Hamas attacks that claimed the lives of more than 1,000 Israelis, the taking of hostages, and the onset of war 1 year ago today. We have some special guests with us today that I'm so happy to introduce to you. We have Bassam Aramin, a bereaved Palestinian father and a longtime member and staff person of the Parent Circle. Bassam used to be our Palestinian director. He's our spokesperson, and he's a dear friend. Hello, Bassam. We'll talk to you soon. We also have Anat Marneen here with us. Anat is also a longtime member of the Parent Circle, very active in our women's group. She is a bereaved Israeli sister. We have a video message from an Israeli woman who lost her parents on October 7th. We'll be hearing from her later. Personally, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to reflect and memorialize October 7th, 2023 in this way, together with Israelis and Palestinians in the same room. I think that's a very unique opportunity for us. And for those of us around the world, I'm grateful that we have the opportunity to be here not as pro-Palestinians or pro-Israelis, but as human beings together, united in collective grief for all of the deaths that have taken place in the face of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and united in hope for a better and more peaceful future. And yet today, it's my job to focus us on the acknowledgement, the pain, and the devastation and losses that took place in Israel on October 7th. But when we recognize that, we recognize that this took place in a bigger picture. I just wanted to say we are also here to recognize the hostages that have been taken from the families, the Israeli hostages whose fates are still unclear. As we recognize all that and this date in history, we recognize that it took place in a greater context. Yesterday, as Mustafa Awad, the founder of Nonviolence International, said, this did not begin, nor did it end on October 7th. Before we begin, I want us to all take a moment of silence for all of those who have lost loved ones, for all of those who are in pain. United we grieve, united we hope in silence. Thank you. Anat, you're speaking to us today from Tel Aviv in Israel. When you came on, you said it's been a very hard and heavy day. I'm sure we can all understand that. In fact, you're not too far away from the memorial that's taking place right now in Israel about October 7th. Anat, we invited you here tonight for many reasons, but we especially invited you because you lost two brothers on October 7th, but October 7th, 1973. Tell us about your brothers and what was it like to relive the trauma 50 years later?
Thank you, Shiri. Thank you, everybody. So many people here with us. Very moving. I was 16 years old in 1973. A happy young girl in the north of Israel. I never knew anything about something that could threaten my life. I was the third child, a very pampered girl after my two elderly brothers. Pinky was 7 years older than me. He was 3 years older than me. And they were very fond of each other. And I used to envy them a little bit because I was the little girl and they had so many boys' issues between them. They were playing basketball. They had even some friends that used to go out together, and I had different issues. I was dancing and they were playing basketball. I was with my girlfriends, but still I always looked up to them. They were very handsome, very popular, very friendly. And we had a very modest life because we just left the kibbutz. I was born in a kibbutz. All three of us grew up in a kibbutz. It was nearly this time of the year, 65 years ago that we left the kibbutz. I was 2 years old, 2.5 years old. And people who left the kibbutz those years didn't have any basics to buy, a big house, or everything was very modest. We slept, the three kids, in one bedroom, and then a little later my parents enlarged one room, and so, but we could afford a normal, modest life like everybody around us. I never felt that anything missed. And all of a sudden, when I was 16 years old, and it was, 6 years after the 6 Days War, after 67. So the belief in Israel was that we have the strongest army in the Mediterranean and we can beat everybody and we are so strong. And I even remember the stories that in 67, when the Israeli troops entered the Palestinian, now I call them the occupied territories, but then it was Jordanian occupation there, and we heard stories that the Palestinians agreed and welcomed the Israeli soldiers with flowers. And it seemed like everything is so peaceful. We could go and buy stuff over there and all kinds of good memories from those years. I never knew that there was anything frustrating for the other people who lived so nearby. And all of a sudden, on October 6th, 1973, the war broke. My two brothers were combatant soldiers, armor. My Pinky, my elder one, was already an officer. Yeah, he was just training to be. Pinky was in the reserves. He was about to have his first child born, but they called him to join the troops in the Golan Heights, and Yair's troops went to the south, to the Sinai Desert. And ever since then, we didn't hear anything from them for days and weeks. And my parents were very worried, but I was very confident because what could happen to them? I couldn't imagine my life without my two elderly brothers. Wherever I went, we lived in a small town, so wherever I went, I was known as their younger sister, and it looked like everything was open for me. And then after nearly 4 weeks, we got the terrible message that they both died on the field, Pinky in the Golan Heights, Yair in the Sinai Desert, on October 7th at around 10 o'clock in the morning.
So October 7th for you is already a horrible date.
Is my date for 51 years today. Yeah.
So October 7th, when you woke up 50 years later, what was that like?
I'll tell you first that on October 6th, we held a very special ceremony, memorial ceremony in our little town, because we used to do it with all the community. But last year, for the 50th anniversary, for some reasons, we decided to do it only for the family. But family and friends, we were about 70 people. And it was very emotional and moving because we could talk. Instead of somebody reading something, we shared our thoughts and our emotions. And it was something with very strong impact on every one of us. And I felt like, we closed some kind of a circle after 50 years. And all of a sudden, October 7th, 2023, we wake up with a siren on 6:29, and it was a shock that it took a few hours to start understanding that it's not one rocket or one missile. And it took a few hours, maybe even a few days, to realize the catastrophe that was going on. And for me, it's like a big black hole captured me and sent me 50 years back.
Yeah.
And for many days, weeks, and months, I couldn't participate in anything except for our forums meetings, because this is what gave me some energy, some air, some oxygen. I remember myself calling you, Bassam, asking you to explain to me things that I didn't understand. How can it be? How can people cause such things to other people? And now today, with the memorial ceremony and all day on the radio talks with families who lost their beloved ones or whose beloved ones are still hostages in Gaza, it brings me back 51 years. I become 16 years old again, hopeless, like the world collapsed.
October 7th has not ended in Israel. It hasn't ended anywhere. What's this year been like for you? What's this year been like in Israel? What's this year been like for the Israeli members of the Parent Circle?
Well, it depends, but the Israelis that I'm in contact with, my family,
Right.
my friends, my colleagues, my ex-colleagues, everybody's very, very much worried about what's going on. I have groups of professional people who are very concerned on what's going on in Gaza, also about the Palestinians. But it's something that on the street with my neighbors, it's not very easy to talk about, because people are very concerned with what's going on with the Jews in Israel. And looking up a little bit and looking about the area is not very common. But in the groups that I participate, we share the pain and the frustration from the war that's been going on and the terrible things that the Israeli military does in Gaza and now in Lebanon. But many, many Israelis don't care. It's very sad for me to say so, but this is what I see around me, that people are very emotional with what happens inside Israel, and their heart is not big enough to contain what's going on outside.
That's really hard. No.
Yeah, but still we have new members who lost their beloved ones on October 7th, and since then that joined our forum. So it means some of them were already on our side. They were supportive. They came to our memorial ceremony. They must have heard Bassam many times and other Palestinian friends of ours. And they just needed the reason to join. But for some of them, it was like waking up from a dream that they thought things can go on like this forever, but they realized that without proceeding a political process that will find a solution that will be fair enough for both nations, both people, we don't have any choice but keep fighting. And this is what we don't want. Shiri, maybe you could read for us the poem that Karen wrote.
I will.
Okay, she's a bereaved mother who lost her son on the 7th, and it's amazing what people, it took me so many years. Like, I joined the forum over 20 years ago, so it took me around 30 years to do it. These people joined the forum a few weeks or months after their loss.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much darkness, and then there are these glimmers of hope, these people that have joined the parent circle, like the mother that you mentioned. I'll have you tell us a little bit more about her a little bit later because I want to hear from Bassam too. But I've met some, we will hear a video message from Mayan Inon, who also lost her parents on October 7th. None of the October 7th bereaved members could be here with us today, I think for obvious reasons, but they are certainly here with us in spirit. Bassam, I want to turn to you. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the loss of your daughter, your 10-year-old daughter, Abir, due to the occupation. You paid a very, very heavy price to be here today, and we do not take that for granted. Well, we also I asked you to be the Palestinian here today with us, Bassam, because I know you for a long time. And I know, and I'm sure this is why Anat reached out to you as well after October 7th. And I'd love to hear more about that conversation. But Bassam, you are one of the Palestinians that I know that has such a deep understanding of the Israeli Jewish narrative, the Israeli psyche, if you will. You did your master's in Holocaust studies. You visited the death camps in Europe. You spent time in Israeli jail. You speak, read, and write Hebrew fluently. You tell jokes in Hebrew. And you have many Israeli friends and colleagues. So, with this understanding in mind, Bassam, can you tell us as a Palestinian, how do you understand October 7th for the Israelis? And how do you understand October 7th for the Palestinians?
Yeah, thank you, Shirley. And to go directly to the answer, of course, because around 20 years during our lectures, almost every day, we said one day it will blow up in our faces because it's never was quiet in any day. But you know, we managed to see like 2, 3, 4 people have been killed every few days, which is okay. We can live with that. We can manage that until you yourself tasted this bitterness of pain. We understand that when your life become before and after. So we cannot keep silence. We became very active. And this is what I said next day or even before Abir died, that we need to double our efforts to achieve peace because this is the only option. So in fact, I learned in jail. I spent 7 years in jail when I was 17 years old. Even from the beginning, I learned that if you know your enemy, you can defeat him or you can kill him. If you only hate him, you will kill yourself. Means if you know more, you act much better. If you don't know, simply you don't know. So it was for me a mission to discover the other side, my enemy side, the Israelis, the Jewish, the Zionists, to understand their language, which is the language of victimhood mentality, which is fear, built not on a real victimhood means a real history of fear and discrimination and anti-Semitism, which is very difficult culture, very difficult mentality. So it's ongoing fear all the time. So, for example, when we talk about October 7th, of course, as you mentioned, you talked yesterday about October 6th, and it didn't finish in the October 8th, but October 7th, exactly for the Palestinians, briefly, it was a very historical day. It's for the first time the Palestinians saw how the Israeli soldiers had been defeated. On the other side, it was for the first time for the Israelis. It reminded them again with the horrors of the Holocaust, 75 years. For the first time, it's the threat of their very existence in Israel. I didn't see this in the Palestinian side, I mean the existence of Israel. Yes, we didn't expect that, but again, it was always expected to be something, intifada, another intifada, violent intifada, built on many elements. So how to deal with that? I want to talk about to recognize the pain of the other side in the middle For us, it's a genocide. It's a whole, ethnic cleansing. It's a massacres in Gaza. So you cannot see the other side when you talk about 1,000 Israelis to compare with 40,000 Palestinians. And this is what united us as bereaved families, as combatants for peace, for example, who worked together for almost 2 decades. For me, we built our partnership on respecting each other, on our right to exist together, and because we have no other choice. So always we need to remember the other side. Otherwise, you lose your humanity. It's very simple. And this is exactly what happened from the day one. We raise up our voice again because our pain is unbearable. We know that. We respect those families who lost their beloved ones. From the other side, to talk about the hostages, which the Palestinians call them prisoners also. How come that I cannot empathy with an Israeli mother or Israeli father? His son or his daughter is kidnapped while I myself spent 7 years in jail. We have more than 10,000 people now since the 7th of October. So you need to empathy with the other side, to think about them exactly as you want them to think about you, your pain. If you are not allowed to listen, to respect the pain of the others, no one will listen or feel your own pain. So this is exactly our message in the Parent Circle and again in Combatants for Peace. To be united in this pain because it's the same. It's really the same. Whatever your son or your daughter, your father, your brother, I'm talking about the feeling of the families. At the same time, we understand the price of war, and we already saw it. We saw the people who paid the price on the ground. In spite of the leaders, after a few, I don't know, weeks maybe, they will meet and shake hands. And the people who paid the price will remain.
Thank you, Bassam. I'm very curious about the conversation that you two had, because I know that after October 7th, I also reached out to Palestinian friends and colleagues to help me understand. So, Anat, Bassam, can you share a little, Anat, what were you hoping to get when you called Bassam? What were you hoping to hear? What were you hoping to learn?
You remember, Bassam? You remember that conversation?
Yeah, I still young a little bit, yes.
I was wondering what's the relation between Hamas and our Palestinian colleagues. And Bassam explained it to me that Hamas is their responsibility because it's part of the Palestinian nation, just like the extremists on Israel who are our problem and part of our nation. And we have to deal with them. I don't want to start with names now, but I guess many people know who I'm talking about. Just like the Palestinians have to deal with Hamas. More or less, Bassam, this is the idea?
Exactly. In fact, yes, but this is a very, let me say, مخوان media to make it a war between Israel and Hamas, this organization. And imagine if we eliminate Hamas tomorrow, the world will be very peaceful, which is not true. This is the problem. Hamas, yes, is the creation of Israel. Fatah is the creation of Israel. PLO is the creation of Israel, or let me say the occupation. There is occupation, there is resistance. And yeah, Hamas part of the Palestinian people. They are political organization using violence like Fatah before, like the Popular Front, like one of the co-founders of Combatants for Peace is Hamas leader, member. And another one is Islamic Jihad leader, was.
Former.
So, yeah, so I try to explain that if you don't have any hope, cannot see your enemy as a human being, why you need to stop fighting him? It's occupation, it's a good reason for you to resist. So I try to explain, yes, to Anna, that tomorrow maybe Hamas will be the leaders of the peace process, exactly like Fatah before, PLO. Look at the Palestinian security forces now, the Palestinian Authority, all of them ex-prisoners. It means ex-terrorists for the Israelis. They are who protect now the Palestinian security. They keep the Palestinian security. They keep the agreements with Israel. And a few years ago, they were in the Israeli jails. It means it's politics. So for me, it's a very long year, the most longest horror movie. We need to find a director to put an end to this horror. It's
I
too
think
much.
thank you. I think what's important about the call between Anat and Bassam and me and Bassam and all the Robbie and Layla, all the other conversations that happened is sort of a search, right? This hope that you Bassam or you Layla or you whoever in the Palestinian is, this is not you. You are not them. You are a good person. You would never do this. The members of our Palestinian parent circle, you do not believe in that. This is sort of the search in these conversation. And I think the search in the conversation is also for an acknowledgement. How do we acknowledge the other side's suffering, the other side's pain, without losing our own suffering and our own pain? And that, how do you want people here today to reflect on October 7th, 2023?
Well, the terrible massacre did not happen out of the blue. Even though some of us were very surprised, others were not that much, as we found out now, but it was part of a process that was going on for a very long time. And we have to look back at what started the process, and we have to look into the future and think and decide what we want. Do we want to keep fighting to build a much stronger army and lose more soldiers and citizens on both sides? Or we want to try something else? And I think for me, I don't know, for me, it was obvious that our colleagues, our friends in the parent circle were against any kind of violence, just as I trust them to be sure that I'm against the violence that we are performing. But together, we have so much work to do in our societies to convince people that we have a partner. We have someone, and another side. As some of our friends say, it's unfortunate that peace process has to go between enemies, because if it was among friends, it would be much easier. But at the moment, our peoples, our nations are in war. So we have to start a process to end this war, as it happened in other parts of the world. It will end. The war will end. Somehow it will end. I hope the Americans will choose the right president that will help us go into this process. But we have to go, and it will happen. Otherwise, there's no future for anyone. And we are staying, Palestinians are staying in the Middle East. So we have to solve it between us. And this is what I would like everybody around here to believe. As we say in our organization, don't support the Israelis, don't support the Palestinians, support peace.
Thank you, Anat. Bassam, you have often said that you wish Abir's death will be the last of any child to die. I want to give you some time to talk to us about Abir, and also in light of all the children, both Israeli and Palestinian, that have died since October 7th.
It's very sad. It's really very sad. And in spite, I know this feeling sometimes when you see those babies or kids, you don't know how their parents survive, because I have the same feeling. I really don't know how I survive. You think you are going to die. And the problem, we are thinking to take revenge in their names. So in some place you think we love the death culture, which is not. We want to take revenge in order to live, in order to survive. And we find ourselves preparing our other kids to kill and to kill and to be killed. It's very difficult, but we need to be reasonable. Always I said that we are stronger than our pain. It's true, but it's very difficult.
Okay.
Whatever we need to look forward, past is past, it's over. I will never meet Abir again. It's true. It's very painful. We need to know how to deal with this pain, to use these memories for more anger, more blood, more pain, more victims, or to try for our beloved one, to promise them to make peace, to try to make more bridge their name, and to stop killing each other. Because yes, we are together. We have no other place. We will continue to exist on this land, to share it as one state or two states or five states, as we always said, or to share it as two big graveyards. Our kids and our families are.
Thank you, Bassam. We have a video message from one of our new members of the Parent Circle, an Israeli woman. Her name is Maayan Inon, and she lost her parents on October 7th. And that remind me where she's from, what kibbutz?
Netiva Asara. It's a moshav, not kibbutz.
Moshe. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Maayan Inon. I am the daughter of Yaakov and Bila Inon. Beautiful people who were murdered and burned down with their home in Moshav Netiva Asara on October 7. It is really very hard to describe what we are going through since that Saturday. The world seems to be an awful place. Everything is upside down. And yet, me and my family, we are choosing every day to look forward, to find our strength again, to heal, and to choose reconciliation and meeting with people all over the world that can share our values of life and peace. In that sense, the Parent Circle is a new home for us, and I am so glad that I met this forum, and it gives me a lot of hope and strength, and I hope to contribute myself and whatever I can to enforce this message. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Maayan's family has been very engaged in the Parent Circle very quickly after her parents were killed on October 7th, as we have many other members. And Nat, you wanted us to read something about that a new bereaved member wrote. Just tell us about her, and then I can read it if you want.
Well, her name is Karen Harel. She's a mother who lost her son. She has this son and another daughter. And he was murdered in the kibbutz where he lived with his girlfriend, and he was a beautiful son, and she's now a PhD candidate and the same profession as myself, but I didn't know her previously.
What's the profession? Tell us.
Dance movement therapist.
So it's not this, we're not ready for this poem yet, Christopher. Okay, that's a different poem. She wrote, "Don't turn my son's murder into an instrument for war. Don't send missiles in his name. Don't send soldiers in his name. Don't send messengers of revenge. Send in his memory love. Send in his memory condolences. Send a blessing in his name." That's pretty powerful coming from a mother who just lost the most important thing in her life.
Yeah.
Anat Bassam, can you tell us, imagine you're here October 7th, 2025. What do you hope for?
Bassam, you go first.
You know, it's not written anywhere that we're going to continue killing each other forever. It will end, it will stop. But I don't know, unfortunately, how much blood we need to stop this war, to stop this killing. And by the way, we will never achieve anything at all. No winners except the weapon sellers and the graves. It's very clear. Both Israelis and Palestinians are victims. Both of us victims to the same occupation, unfortunately. I hope, as always, I said that the Palestinians didn't kill 6 million Israelis and the Israelis didn't kill 6 million Palestinians. And there is a German ambassador in Tel Aviv and there is an Israeli ambassador in Berlin. 4 or 5 years after 6 million victims. We can do it. 4 years after the 73 war, Yom Kippur War, 5 years after the peace agreement with Egypt. So it must be peace agreement for the memories of those kids, of those women, of those even fighters, of those civilians who have been killed in this war during the 75 years, for their memories. We will have peace agreement. And again, any fanatic group in each side will be the responsibility of his own state. Believe me, we prove that we can live together even in one state, one democratic state. We can live in 2 states. But we need to respect each other. We need to understand that both of us have the right to exist again. I hope it will be the last day of the war to understand that we cannot continue like this forever. And at the same time, as long as we have this fear, feed with hatred, we will continue to sacrifice the blood of our kids.
Anat?
Yeah, well, I must share with you that I'm very frustrated because what happened in 73 is it's a war that could have been prevented because President Sadat was approaching. He reached his hand for an agreement, but our leaders, the Israeli leaders, wouldn't accept it. And we paid this terrible price. And realizing now that October 23 did not have to happen. It could have been prevented with a different attitude. But our leaders here were very arrogant and they cared about other things. With the current government in Israel, I'm very much afraid that nothing can be achieved. I think that we as Israelis have to do a lot of work inside Israel in order to change the political view in Israel at the moment. And for that, we need the support of our friends in the world. Because if there won't be any allies that will push and prevent more fighting, I'm not sure that this government will initiate any process.
And yet, if you could wave a wand, what do you hope to see?
Well, I would like to see some kind of talks and agreements that can be even as a part-time solution, and let us do the work with the societies, because this is what we are good at. We are good at talking to people and bringing people together and letting them know one another. You know, I facilitated many groups in our project of the narrative project. And it always happens, you know, like a miracle, that when a group of people, Israelis and Palestinians, young or old, with the same occupation or a different approach, when they learn to respect each other and know each other, this is a beginning of a life that can go on together.
Yeah.
So this is what I believe in, and this is what I hope for.
Yeah, you've seen the possibilities. You've seen what happens when Israelis and Palestinians enter a room together and meet each other as human beings. You've seen what is possible. So I want to take that with us today. Today's gathering, and really these 3 days of gathering, are not only about reflection, but also about action. And often we feel helpless and unsure of what action is possible and what it is that we need to do. And so I want to leave you with a poem that is a small action that I think we can all take with us today. It's called I'm Taking the Side of Peace, and it was written last October, but it's still very relevant. The link to it is at the bottom. I'm taking the side of peace. Today I'm taking sides. I'm taking the side of peace. Peace which I will not abandon, even when its voice is drowned out by hurt and hatred, bitterness of loss, cries of right and wrong. I am taking the side of peace, whose name has barely been spoken in this winnerless war. I will hold peace in my arms and share my body's breath, lest peace be added to the body count. I will call for de-escalation even when I want nothing more than to get even. I will do it in the service of peace. I will make a clearing in the overgrown thicket of cause and effect so peace can breathe for a minute and reach for the sky. I will do what I must to save the life of peace. I will breathe through tears. I will swallow pride. I will bite my tongue. I will offer love without testing for deservingness. So don't ask me to wave a flag today unless it is the flag of peace. Don't ask me to sing an anthem unless it is a song of peace. Don't ask me to take sides unless it is the side of peace. Erwin Keller. That is the action that I am asking all of you, and Anat and Bassam are asking all of you to do today as we reflect on this very difficult, day. And also to remember that tomorrow is the last of the 3 days of our gathering at the same time, the same place, organized by our dear partners at Combatants for Peace. Thank you all for being here today with us. Thank you to Bassam and Anat for sharing your hearts and your time with us. Thank you to our partners at Nonviolence International for this initiative, and to our partners at Combatants for Peace for being wonderful partners as always. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Shiri.
Yes.